I didn't move when the glass exploded. I didn't shout. I just stood there in the cold, empty warehouse at the San Francisco flower market and watched my sister-in-law, Amber, smash a vase full of rare orchids with a hammer. It was 4:30 in the morning. The place smelled like wet soil, fuel from delivery trucks, and now the sharp, fresh smell of broken flower stems. Amber looked completely out of control. Under the bright factory lights, her face was red and twisted with anger. "You think you're better than us?" she yelled. "Just because you own a flower business? Give me the money for my surgery, Sierra. If you don't, I swear I'll destroy everything you have." She lifted the hammer again, this time aiming at a bucket of white flowers. Next to her, my brother Travis was holding his phone, recording everything. He wasn't trying to stop her. He was waiting for me to break, waiting for drama, waiting for content. I looked at the mess on the floor. Almost $8,000 worth of flowers were already ruined. Then I looked at them. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. Instead, I reached into my back pocket and touched the hard edge of a plastic card that was about to change everything. But before I tell you what that card was and what happened next, leave a comment and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is for you. I want to see how far this story reaches. Slowly, I pulled my phone out. I moved carefully, the way you do when you don't want to make someone even more aggressive. Amber stopped yelling for a moment. She was breathing hard. She pushed her hair back and smudged her makeup across her face. "Who are you calling?" she snapped. "Go on, call Mom," Travis said, laughing and pointing his camera at me. "She'll tell you to stop being selfish and give Amber the money." "Yeah," he added. "Tell her how you're keeping all the family money while Amber is suffering." I didn't look at either of them. I looked at my phone and dialed 3 numbers. Not my mother, not my father. "Emergency services," a voice said. "Police, fire, or medical?" "Police," I said. My voice sounded calm, almost empty. No fear, no shaking. "I want to report a serious case of vandalism in progress at the San Francisco Flower Market, stall 42. Amber froze. The hammer dropped slightly in her hand. "What are you doing?" she said. I kept talking. "The person is still here. She is holding a hammer. She has already destroyed about $8,000 worth of merchandise." I paused and added, "That amount is well above the limit for a felony charge." "In California? You're calling the police?" Travis shouted, finally lowering his phone. "Have you lost your mind?" "She's not family right now," I said clearly into the phone so he could hear every word. "She's trespassing. This is my business, and I want to press charges." Then I ended the call and slipped my phone back into my pocket. The warehouse went quiet. Too quiet. The only sound was the distant buzz of machines moving somewhere far away. Amber stared at me, trying to read my face. She was waiting for me to laugh, or say I was joking, or apologize. That's what the old me would have done. The old me would have paid the money. $25,000 just to make the noise stop. Just to keep the peace. But that version of me was gone. She was already broken, just like the flowers scattered across the floor. "You're bluffing," Amber said, but her voice wasn't steady. "You'd never have your own brother's wife arrested. Mom would destroy you." "The police will be here in about 3 minutes," I said calmly. "I suggest you put the hammer down." For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. She dropped the hammer. It hit the concrete with a loud crash. Then she grabbed her purse. "Come on, Travis, she's lost it. We're leaving." She turned and rushed toward the exit, her shoes tapping fast against the floor. I didn't run. I walked over to the heavy metal cart we used to move large water containers and pushed it in front of the door. Then I locked the wheels. "You're not going anywhere," I said. "Move it, Sierra," Travis snapped, stepping toward me. He tried to look big, intimidating. The same way he always did when he wanted to scare people into giving him what he wanted. I didn't move. I'm only 5 feet 4 inches, but in that moment I felt taller than I ever had in my life. You wanted a show, Travis? You wanted something to record? You're about to get it. That's when we heard the sirens. At first they were faint. Then they grew louder, echoing through the metal building. Blue and red lights started flashing across the walls. The flashing lights poured in through the high windows, washing over the crushed flowers on the floor. Other shop owners were starting to gather. Men and women I had worked with for 5 years. People who knew me. People who respected me. They stood nearby in silence, watching everything. When the officers came in, Amber tried to put on a show. She started crying and talking about family problems and a big misunderstanding. But the police didn't care about her story. They looked at the broken glass. They looked at the hammer on the floor. Then they looked at me. "Is she the one?" one of the officers asked. "Yes," I said. "Do you want to press charges?" I looked at Amber. She was begging now, silently forming the word, "please." Then I looked at Travis. His face was full of anger. "Yes," I said. "Charge her. Felony vandalism." Watching the handcuffs close around Amber's wrists made a sharp clicking sound. It was the coldest, and strangely, the most relieving sound I had heard in a long time. As they walked her out past the rows of buckets filled with roses and lilies, I didn't feel bad. I felt free. Later that morning, I sat alone in my private workroom. The rush was finally fading, leaving behind a dull ache in my head. The quiet here was different from the warehouse. Calm, clean. It smelled like eucalyptus and peace. I was still wearing my badge around my neck. I took it off and looked at the small plastic card hanging from the clip. To most people, it looks like a regular ID, a photo, a barcode, a strip on the back. But in the San Francisco flower market, this card means everything. It's access. It's power. It's the door to the real business. It took me 5 years to earn it. 5 years of waking up at 3 in the morning while the rest of the world was still asleep. 5 years of standing in freezing cold storage rooms, sorting flowers by hand. For 5 years, I worked through thousands and thousands of flower stems until my fingers went numb. For 5 years, thorns cut my hands. I carried heavy buckets of water. I argued with suppliers who saw a 24-year-old woman and didn't take her seriously. No one gave me this business. I didn't inherit it. I didn't get money from my parents. I built it myself. One stem at a time, one bucket at a time. That badge proved I belonged there. It couldn't be shared. It couldn't be borrowed. You had to earn it. But to my family, that badge didn't mean effort or sacrifice. To them, it meant access. It was like a magic key I was expected to use whenever they wanted something nice, expensive, or free. Sitting there in the quiet, I finally understood something. I had fallen into a trap. It's what happens when you're the responsible one in the family, the fixer, the saver, the problem solver. At first, people thank you. Then, over time, they stop asking. They start expecting. Your kindness turns into a service, like water from a tap, like lights when you flip a switch. Nobody thanks the tap. They only get angry when it stops working. Without realizing it, I had taught them to see me as a resource, not as a person. I paid off Travis's $15,000 debt when his risky investment failed because my mom cried and said it would destroy his future. I secretly paid my parents' house payments for 5 years because my dad couldn't stand admitting he had no money left. I bought the cars. I paid for the trips they showed off online. I did all of it because I thought if I gave enough, one day they would finally see me. One day they would respect me. But yesterday, the bill finally came, and the cost was too high. Amber had stopped me near the loading area, her eyes full of confidence and entitlement. "I need $25,000, she said, like she was asking to borrow a pen. "I want a full makeover, everything. I need to look good for my brand deals." $25,000. That was my entire bonus for the quarter. That was the money I had saved to fix and upgrade my studio's cooling system. When I said no, she didn't ask why. She didn't care that I'd been working since 3 in the morning to earn that money. She just looked at me with pure anger and said, "You're so selfish. You have all this money and you won't even help your own family." That's when And finally, Amber. She was wearing the same clothes she'd been arrested in. Her expensive top was wrinkled. Her makeup was smeared around her eyes. But she wasn't crying anymore. She looked furious. "You're a monster!" my mother shouted as she pushed past me into my living room. "You actually had her arrested. You put your own brother's wife in jail." "She destroyed my property," I said calmly, closing the door. "She committed a serious crime." "She was emotional," my mother yelled. "Families get emotional. Families fight. You don't call the police on your own family." Then she added, "Do you have any idea who saw that? Everyone at the market. People are going to talk. The gossip will be horrible." That was it. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "She threatened you." Just the gossip. "And guess who paid her bail?" Travis said with a cold smile. He stepped forward and held up a receipt. "You did?" I asked. I looked at the paper and felt my stomach drop. He had used the emergency credit card I gave my parents years ago, the one meant only for medical emergencies. They had used my own money to free the woman who tried to destroy my business. "Think of it as a small payment for the pain you caused her," Travis said, tossing the receipt onto my table. My father cleared his throat. The room went quiet. He walked over to the window, looked out at the city, then turned back to me. He had that serious, head-of-the-family look on his face. "Sierra," he said slowly, "this has gone too far. You're not thinking clearly anymore. This little flower business has gone to your head, and now you're hurting people. You're out of control." "I'm out of control?" I said. "She destroyed $8,000 worth of flowers because I wouldn't pay for her surgery." "That's not the point," he snapped. "This is about loyalty. And since you clearly don't understand that, we're going to have to fix this." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded paper. Then he dropped it on the table next to the bail receipt. "This is a transfer agreement," he said, "for your stall at the market." I stared at it. "What?" "You're going to sign it over to Travis," he said, like he was ordering food. "He's the man of the family. He needs a steady income to take care of his wife, especially now." "After what you've put her through," my father continued, "you've shown you can't handle pressure. Travis will take over the business. You can work for him. Maybe, if you apologize. And anyway," my mother added quickly, nodding, "it's basically a family business. We gave you that $500 to get started. The stall belongs to us." I looked at all of them. That loan had been paid back in 2 weeks, with extra. I looked at Travis, who could barely take care of anything, let alone a business that depends on fresh products every day. They weren't asking. They were ordering. They truly believed that my work, my effort, my 5 years of early mornings in the cold somehow belonged to them just because I was their family. "You want the stall?" I asked quietly. "We're taking it," Travis said, crossing his arms. "Sign the paper and fix this mess." I looked at the document. Then I looked at my father. "Okay," I said. I picked up the pen. It was a cheap one, probably taken from some front desk somewhere, but in my hand it felt heavy, important. "That's the right choice," my father said, relaxing. "You'll see. This stress was too much for you anyway." I didn't answer. I read the paper carefully. It was a standard transfer form for the flower market. It said that I was giving up all rights and responsibilities for stall 42 to Travis. All rights and responsibilities? I repeated out loud. Just sign it, Amber said from the corner. She already looked like she was planning how to change the place. So I signed. My signature was steady, clear, final. Then I reached into my pocket and took out a single silver key. It was the key to the metal door of the stall. Stall. Here, I said, sliding the key across the table. Travis grabbed it like he'd just won a prize. He held it up and smiled wide. Finally, he said, this family is going to have real leadership. I've got big plans. We're going to turn it into something modern. Digital flowers, online trends. The profits will be massive. My mother clapped her hands. Oh, Travis, that sounds wonderful. Your brother is so smart, she said, looking at me. I didn't argue. I stood up and walked to the hallway closet. I took out my work bag, the one that held my best tools. The tools I used every single day. I put it over my shoulder. Where are you going? My father asked. I'm leaving, I said. You have the stall. You have the business. You don't need me anymore. You're right, we don't, Travis said, slipping the key into his pocket. As I walked toward the door, I felt something strange. It wasn't happiness. It was the feeling you get when someone steals a wallet, and you already know it's empty. My family made one big mistake. They thought owning the space meant owning the business. They saw the stall, the buckets, the location, and assumed the money came with it. But the flower market doesn't work like that. That lease they took? It wasn't a prize. It was a bill. $5,000 a month in rent, plus utilities and fees. The real value wasn't the stall. It was the badge. That badge is personal. It doesn't belong to any location. It takes years to earn. Inspections, approvals, sponsors. Without it, you can't buy even one flower. You're just standing in an empty concrete box. And that badge? It wasn't part of the deal. It was in my bag. That same night, I drove to a small warehouse I had already rented in my own name. I logged into the supplier system. I placed my orders, and I changed all the delivery addresses. While my brother had a key to a door, I had access to the entire supply chain, to the entire market. By the next morning, my new warehouse was already filling up with fresh flowers. At the same time, security at the old stall reported something interesting. Someone tried to enter the buying floor without a badge. It was Travis and Amber. They were stopped immediately. That lease they were so proud of, it meant nothing. The license couldn't be transferred. They couldn't buy a single stem. They couldn't sell anything. They had a shop, but no business. A few hours later, they found me. They demanded the badge. I said no. They said I had tricked them. I told them the truth. They wanted the business without ever learning how it actually worked. Then I handed my father one more piece of paper, an eviction notice, the house they were living in, the one they always called the family home. It was mine. I had saved it from foreclosure years ago and let them live there for free. That was over. I closed the warehouse door and went back to work. 3 months later, my business is doing better than ever. The stall was taken back by the market. My parents moved out. And Amber's online career ended after her criminal charge became public. I didn't win by watching them lose. I won by finally stopping the damage they were doing to my life. Justice wasn't about revenge. Justice was about building something better. You can't grow anything healthy in poisoned soil. And sometimes, the only way to save what you've built is to walk away.